Chapter 3, coming to you from the beautiful island of Astapelia in Greece. Look at that beach down there. It's so lovely. Okay, here we go. Chapter 3. Do you remember what happened to the characters that we just met in Chapter 2? School was going to start on Monday. Only 2 more sleeps before I had to walk into a brand new classroom with everyone watching and a teacher who might or might not be an alien zombie. Move this so I'm a bit lower. There we go. Saturday is always mosque day. My mum had decided that for the first few weeks after moving, we would visit a different mosque every Saturday and pray Dura, D-H-U-H-R, D-H-U-H-R. I'd like to know how to pronounce that. There. What we should start doing actually is making a list of the words that I don't know on the wall somewhere, and then we could ask somebody how to pronounce them, or someone in the class might be able to help. So we'd visit a different mosque every Saturday and play Dura, there, to see what our new neighbourhood was like. Dad normally works on Saturday, so it's just me, Mariam, Isa, and Mum. My mum is a very smart scientist and works out all sorts of different ways of fighting cancer for the cancer research people. But sometimes Isa's cuteness makes her lose her smartness. It's like he has big, innocent smartness, melting eyes. Can you turn to your neighbour and make your big melting eyes? The ones that convince your parents that anything you do is perfect. Some of you could be actors one day with those melting eyes. They don't work on me, so when Isa wanted to buy a whistle from the petrol station on the way to the mosque, I knew it wasn't a good idea. But Mum went right ahead and bought it for him, saying, "Because you've been such a good boy this morning," and giving him a gooey kisses on top of his head. I knew it was gooey because she still kisses me like that, even though I've forbidden her to do it in front of my friends. In the mosque, everyone prays together with an imam leading. It's like in Muslim religion, imam is like the head of the mosque. It's supposed to be super quiet. Just after the prayer began, Isa decided to move from his place. I was praying in between Mum and Miriam. Neither of them moved. I wasn't sure if they'd even noticed that he'd got up. Now, Isa is annoying sometimes, but he is my little brother, and I do worry about him. So quickly, I sneaked a look behind us, and he was sitting at the back with a big, cheeky grin on his face. I turned back and I carried on praying. Then we went to Rukau, R-U-K-H-U. That's when your hands are on your knees. Silence from Isa. Then we went to Sujud, S-U-J-O-O-D. That's when your nose and forehead are on the ground. Okay, there's a picture here for you, just in case you've never seen it. I think you probably have. And then, okay, turn and guess what Isa's just done. Yep, the author did not put that whistle in it for no reason. A loud noise of a whistle broke through the silence, followed by Isa's voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again, twee! And then the counting. Trucks going faster. And then the counting. It wouldn't stop. I couldn't help myself. How could I? I burst out laughing. Hey, look at the picture. I burst out laughing right in the middle of my prayer. I put my hand over my mouth, I bit my tongue, I even pinched myself really hard, but I couldn't help it. We didn't have to wonder if Mum had heard. People on all floors of the mosque must have heard. When the prayer finished, Mum and Miriam were a bright shade of, guess what colour? Pink or red. It looked as if their skin had suddenly decided to compete with Miriam's pink socks. They were looking everywhere except up at the people's faces that they usually do when they greet people after prayers. Mum was motioning angrily to Isa to come to her. Luckily, a few people came and patted Isa's head. Oh, that's annoying when little sibling does something wrong and people, oh, well done. But actually it's also kind of them. This is reminding me of making a connection to being on an aeroplane when little children are crying, and you can either be cross with the parent or sympathetic or empathetic and say to them it's okay, or say can I help you, or try and distract the child, because it must be awful for the parent when that happens. So I think that's what these people are doing. They're patting Isa on the head and basically saying to the parent, we understand, he's just little, it's okay. Luckily a few people came and patted Isa's head, which made Mum's skin return to its normal colour. As they were leaving, an old lady with a walking stick and brown abaya waddled over and said, good counting, young man. Oh man, that's really nice of her. So she's trying to diffuse a situation where the parents or Mum is really embarrassed. And instead of growling at him, she understands, you know, little kids are little kids sometimes. So she said, good counting, young man. Chapter 4. Sunday passed pretty quickly because Sundays are Science Day. Dad calls them Science Sunday. And one of those big booming voices, like it's the most fun you could ever have on a Sunday. Why? Because my dad's also a scientist. And I think he and Mum only had us 3 kids so they could create more scientists, or something like that. They actually like science, so I don't mind. We always do fun things like, okay, turn and talk to your neighbour about some fun science things that you think they might do. I imagine you guys are quite into science, and sometimes maybe you do science experiments at home, even if it's really simple stuff like baking soda and vinegar together. Do that one in the sink, because if you put baking soda and vinegar together, it makes a reaction. Maybe we could do it in class. Okay, so in this case they were making slime, creating fizzy eruptions, and making things go pop. And you can imagine what the author's done here. Pop. There are 4 things that pretty much seem to happen on every Science Sunday. 1, Mum wants everything to be done very precisely. She's obsessive about it, but pretends that she's not, because Science Sundays are supposed to be fun and not bossy. She ends up saying things like, just 1 millimetre more, or 1 milliliter more. My cotton button. Or so she's being precise and then saying something sweet, calling the kid a cotton button, through gritted teeth. And then, are you sure you stirred that correctly? Sunshine. Dad laughs at just how crazy Mum gets about the preciseness. So number 2, he kisses her head and says, that's why she's the best scientist in the world. And she kisses his hand and smiles like she's the luckiest woman alive. Super yuck. And kids think it's super yucky if their parents are affectionate to each other, but you know what? It's great to have parents that really, really care about each other and are really good friends, so you should be grateful if your parents are like that. Number 3, Miriam always drops important parts of the experiment on the floor. Always. And number 4, Isa always steps on the important parts of the experiment that Miriam has just dropped on the floor. This is because he has ants in his pants. Have you heard that expression? When you wriggle so much you've got ants in your pants. And his shoes, and in his shoes and everywhere. And he can't stay still. Ever. That Sunday we did tornadoes in bottles, which is so cool. Tornadoes in bottles is super cool. so cool. You should try it sometime. We could try it sometime. Or you could do it at home and video it. And any other science experiments, and we can show them in morning meeting. That would be amazing. You connect 2 bottles with a little pipe and you whirl the top bottle, which makes the water go down to the bottom bottle, and it sends air up, making a tornado. Let me explain it one more time. This is the picture. So I'll say it one more time. You connect the 2 bottles with a little pipe and you whirl the top bottle, which sends air, whirl the top bottle, which makes the water go down the pipe to the bottom bottle, which sends the air up, and that makes the tornado. We all set the things up together on the kitchen table. My brain was thinking about telling Miriam to pass the bottles and pipes, but my mouth hadn't caught up with my brain yet and got things muddled up, so it came out as, pass the pipes. Miriam giggled. Bikes? Ha, I mean the bottles and pipes, I giggled. But I liked pipes, and I wished it was a real word. If it was a real word, then it would just be normal, and you wouldn't like it anymore, said Miriam. Good point. It's called a portmanteau when you join 2 words together, a little bit like that. That's so true, I said. Mum and Dad were bending over laughing in the kitchen corner. When we asked them what was funny, they said that in the Arabic language there's no P sound, so a pipe would end up being called a pipe. Bibe, B-I-B-E, sorry. Then Miriam, who was showing off Googling with her smartphone, said it was actually B-I-P-E-S, that they were a type of weird, disgusting snake lizard that looked like they're inside out. So basically, a muddled up slip of the tongue. With a bit of Googling, they've discovered it's actually a weird, disgusting snake lizard. I wonder if this year we're ever going to come up with any words in our class that are a slip of the tongue, or crazy words, and then make them our own class words, like we've got our own special secret dictionary or secret language. Eventually we got on with the experiment. Oh yeah, tornado in a bottle, said Dad. Sometimes he can get really cheesy and excited, and Miriam and I look at each other and roll our eyes. We kind of like it, really. But you can put glitter or food colouring in the bottle too and see the tornado even better, said Mum. So Miriam and Isa both reached for glitter, and Miriam dropped the bottle everywhere, sending glitter flying everywhere. Right on schedule, said Dad, with a peal of laughter. Mum hugged Miriam and kissed her, also giggling uncontrollably. I could see that Miriam wasn't taking it well. She shrugged Mum off and stomped towards the stairs. Science is so lame anyway. Ooh, she's had a big reaction to a small problem. And her mum and dad tried to diffuse the situation. It's okay, and give her a hug, because we all make mistakes. But she had a big reaction and she has stormed off. Oh dear, she's going to regret that later. She does get extra grumpy at things like that a lot at the moment. And although it's not like she's always grumpy, sometimes she's the nice Miriam too. It's weird. Dad says it's teenager hormones. Those of you with brothers or sisters who are teenagers, you'll probably see that sometimes they get fiery or cross easily. Anyway, hey, that's motivated us to maybe do some science experiments, or maybe it's motivated you to do some science experiments at home and video them and send them to me. Yeah. And I can show them, we can show them in class. Let's get everyone into science. I did science at university and I absolutely love it.